boys and girls, this is Miss Henson again. We're doing our last science lesson for the year, and today we're going to be talking about animal behaviors. So we're going to be talking about migration, hibernation, and dormancy. We're going to go through some notes and over some definitions first today, and then we're going to switch over and then do the insect life cycle, and I'll read a book about the life cycle of a butterfly. So I'm super excited. I love insects and talking about them. So we'll get started here in just a minute. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in and discuss factors in the environment that affect growth and behavior of animals. We live in a warm environment for the most part in Texas. We do have winter and fall, and it does get cool. It doesn't get super cold for the most part, but animals have to adapt to weather change to be able to survive. So we're going to talk about some of the things that animals do because of seasonal changes. So the first thing we're going to discuss is temperature and how it affects animals in their environment. So if you look, this is a journal page that we construct in class. And if you were here, we would be having huge discussions on different animals and their behaviors and going through our journal pages and creating this wonderful piece here. So here we have our thermometer. When the thermometer is low and cold, it gets cold outside. And this is what this animal is saying. Oh, it's cold outside. What are some things that happen when it gets cold outside? Think about it for just a minute. When it gets cold outside, do you think there's enough food? Are plants growing like they normally would for those animals that are herbivores? Think about it. Are they going to have enough food to eat? Well, that's why a lot of animals decide to, when the weather starts getting cool, when they feel the change in the atmosphere and environment, they start nesting and collecting things and getting ready for winter. There's no food during the winter time, and it's hard to get to. So a lot of animals will go into a state of what we call hibernation, and that's their way of adapting to no food and to the cold. So what are some animals you think that hibernate? Think about that for a second. Share with your parents animals that you think hibernate. Well, some animals that hibernate are bats and bears. Both of them go into caves or dark areas to hibernate. And hibernation is when animals adapt to the cold by going into a deep sleep-like state. They do wake some during the winter, but for the most part, they're going to be still, they're going to be quiet, they're going to be closed up somewhere away from things. They don't need a lot of food and water. They may come out and get some water. If they see something to eat, they'll get it, but it's very short amount of time, and then they're back in there sleeping their winter away, or the cold weather away. Another way that animals adjust to seasonal changes is through migration. Migration is when an animal moves from one area to another to find warmer temperatures and food. Some animals that migrate because of the seasonal changes, think of some of them that might. I have some listed up here. We were in class with you journaling them down. We have humpback whales, monarch butterfly, which we're going to talk about a lot today, dragonflies, salmon, wildebeest, geese, stingrays. They all migrate, water, air, ground. They go to different areas so they can find food. One of the things we're going to talk about with the monarch butterfly today is they actually travel from a place in Mexico where there are mountains, and they go up north during the warmer months so that they can feed and survive. And then if you notice the dots coming back, then when it gets cold up north, they actually migrate back through to Mexico. What's really cool about this is that they actually migrate through our area. They migrate through Texas, they migrate through East Texas. I see them every year on the milk plants we have in our yard, or the milkweed plants. And so, especially during the fall, around October, if you're looking, you'll see them going on their path. The last behavior we're going to talk about that animals exhibit is a state of dormancy. Dormancy is some like hibernation, but animals, they will burrow and go deep like rabbits, and snakes, they'll burrow under leaves. And in class we would have made our leaf litter and hidden our little snake underneath here, if we can get a good look at him. And we have copperheads that actually do this. And anyhow, so you have to be careful in the fall and early spring when it's the temperatures are changing, because they are coming out of dormancy or going into dormancy, and they're just underneath leaves, and they may appear dead at first because they won't move until you touch them or pick them up, and then it starts kind of livening them up a little bit. But a state of dormancy, animals still will eat, they still will move around a little bit, they just don't do a lot of it. So here we have my notes that these animals will come out and eat and drink. Once they've got what they need, then they go back in, and that's where they stay. Teaching this unit is a lot of fun in class. I really wish we would have gotten to do it this year. Take a minute, look over these notes, and then they can help you with your assignments. So we're going to go ahead and move into the life cycle of insects. That's our last thing we need to learn for science this year in 2nd grade. And I have a really short book. It's about how a butterfly is born. And it's a very short nonfiction book, and the author is Melvin Berger. Remember that nonfiction books have usually a table of contents here and list the pages. They have real photographs. So we're going to look at some real life photos of animals as we're reading through. So butterflies are beautiful insects, as you can see by the colors on the pages here. They fly from flower to flower, drinking nectar with their long tongues. But a butterfly doesn't always look this way. A butterfly begins its life as a tiny egg. The egg hatches in a few days. Out comes a caterpillar. The young caterpillar is very hungry. It eats its eggshell. Then it starts to eat leaves. It eats many, many leaves. The caterpillar eats and grows and eats and grows. Look how big this caterpillar has grown. Now the caterpillar is ready to change. It hangs from a branch. Slowly the caterpillar turns into a pupa. It forms a hard shell. From outside, the pupa looks very still, but inside much is going on. Can you see what is happening to the pupa? Now in class we do order eggs from a supply place in California, and when they get here, we actually, by the time they get here, they're tiny, tiny little caterpillars, and they're not much bigger than the tip of a pin. And we watch them grow, and they're eating nutrients out of the glass that we have it in. And then over time, as they get big, then they start making webbing, and then the webbing they use it to help turn into a pupa. As the pupa works over time, you can see here, you can't see through it, but when it gets close to hatching time for the monarch butterfly, it starts getting clear where you can see it. And what's amazing is that when they're in there and they're hanging from the top of the cup lid, and you make noise or you bump something, they will start moving around inside that pupa and shaking around, and just it pops and bumps around. It's kind of creepy, but it's amazing to see at the same time. After some time, out comes a butterfly. The butterfly wings are wet and crumpled when they come out, but in a few hours they dry and fill out. So it takes them a little while to dry. When they come out, they're still wet. When they dry out, they start flittering around in their butterfly net. Now the butterfly's wings are strong. The butterfly can fly now. Where do you think this butterfly is going? So when we hatch butterflies in class, we usually have a butterfly release, and I will have one at the end of this video that you can watch from last year so you can get to see what the butterflies do. I'm quickly going to go over the life cycle of a butterfly just so you can get a visual of the stages and what happens. So in our journal, we would do the stages of complete metamorphosis, and that's what the stages are, or the type of change that a butterfly goes through. It turns from one thing into another. And so the stages of an organism from birth to death is a life cycle. So if you look at the cycle of a butterfly, we're going to start with an egg. It's the first stage in the life cycle. Then we have the larva stage, and that's where the caterpillar comes in. Here's the caterpillar. Miss Henson's not the greatest artist, but I do my best. Larvae are organisms that resemble a worm, only in complete metamorphosis. A pupa is an organism that seems to be at rest and creates new body parts. So the next stage, the third stage, is the chrysalis stage, or the pupa stage, where we have a chrysalis, or the cocoon, as some kids know it, and this is where the butterfly is changing inside. The last thing that happens is the organism is fully grown and can reproduce. So then we have our newly hatched butterfly, and then that would be the complete metamorphosis from an egg to the larva to the pupa to the butterfly in the life cycle of a butterfly. Other insects go through similar things. They don't always all turn to pupas. There are different insects go through different cycles. This is one that is complete metamorphosis. We also have insects that go through incomplete metamorphosis, and you'll learn that a little more as you get older. So the last thing I have today is a read aloud. And on the read aloud, it's going to be again about butterfly, but I also wanted you to know these are the stages, I almost forgot, of a ladybug. And one of the things you need to know as a second grader is that a ladybug has life cycle stages. They also have eggs, but their larva looks different. It's actually like a beetle. And then it turns into a pupa. And then we have a young ladybug without spots. And then when they turn to adult, then they get their spots then. So usually adult males are red and females are yellow, but do not confuse the yellow ladybugs with some of the other similar looking ladybugs that are flying around, because those are from a different country. Okay, so our last book is called Monarch Butterfly. It was by Gail Gibbons. A monarch butterfly settles on a leaf of a milkweed plant. She gently presses a tiny egg onto one of its leaves. The egg is beginning of another. So here's our title page again. It's summertime in the north. A breeze stirs the stem of the milkweed plant. The monarch egg is white and shiny. It is the size of a small dot and sticks to the leaf. When the butterfly lays the egg, she makes it sticky. Wind and rain cannot make the egg come loose. So here's our caterpillar here. Over here we have the eggs that were sticky, and as you can see, tiny little eggs right here. Hope you can see them right above my finger. I'll zoom in so maybe you can see. See how tiny they are? Tiny, tiny. In a few days, the egg hatches. Out crawls a small caterpillar, also called a larva. First, the caterpillar eats the eggshell and then chews away at the milkweed, at the milkweed leaf. The egg of a monarch is almost always laid on a milkweed plant. The plant must be its food.
Zoom out.
The caterpillar eats and grows and begins to change. It breaks out of its old skin, showing a new skin underneath. This is called molting. The caterpillar eats and eats. It molts about 5 times. Finally, it is full-grown a monarch caterpillar, about 2 inches long. Now something wonderful begins to happen. The caterpillar creeps to the stem of a leaf. It attaches itself to the stem and drops down head first. The caterpillar's bright colors become greenish. Then the skin splits and moves up to the top. The skin falls off. A new strange form appears. It's called a chrysalis or pupa. The chrysalis is like a blanket that is wrapped around the body, growing inside. So here's our chrysalis or pupa. And in class, they would attach to the top of the cup when they're ready to start doing this stage or going into this stage. At first, the chrysalis is long and soft. Then it shrinks and hardens. It becomes light green, decorated with gold dots. Inside, the monarch butterfly begins to grow. You can see it's changing here. About 2 weeks later, the chrysalis changes again. It turns gray-green before becoming transparent. Inside are white dots and orange and black lines. So transparent means you can see through it. And so at this stage, it's when it's about to hatch. It's really cool to get to see them move around in there. The chrysalis wiggles, then it splits open. The butterfly begins to pull itself out. The head and legs appear first, and then the rest of it slides out. The wings are tiny and stuck together, and the butterfly's abdomen is big. The abdomen becomes smaller when its fluid is pumped into the wings. The wings become bigger. A caterpillar has turned into a butterfly. This is called metamorphosis. And the abdomen is kind of like the middle section, like your tummy. The butterfly sits quietly for a few hours, waiting for its wings to dry and harden. At last they begin to move slowly, and then beat faster and faster. The butterfly flutters up toward the sky. Monarchs have a bad taste and will make a bird or animal sick if they are eaten, so most of them are left alone. Well, that's great to know. That's their natural defense against predators. The scales of the wings make up the colors. The feeler in the antenna is for touch and smell. Feeler and antenna. The tubes of the mouth is called the proboscis. It sucks up sweet juice called nectar from flowers. So here's the proboscis, and you can see it on flowers when they are drinking nectar. Here's some other parts. We have the abdomen, the legs, and the thorax. There are many parts to a butterfly. The monarch butterfly only flies during the day. When it rains, the butterfly stays dry, hidden underneath leaves. Fall is on the way. Soon it will be cold. If the monarch butterfly doesn't fly south, it will die. Once again, it darts up into the sky. The butterfly will take a long trip to a warmer place. This is called migration. And we talked about migration earlier with the butterflies. The monarchs will fly to where its ancestors have always gone, sometimes to the very same tree. Other monarchs keep appearing, making a cloud of orange in the sky. At night they rest in the trees. Sometimes they fly up to 12 miles an hour and almost 100 miles in one day. There could be over 1,000 butterflies traveling together. Oh my goodness. And those are the paths that we see. They fly to places such as Florida, Southern California, and Mexico. Some butterflies migrate 4,000 miles. They will stay south throughout the winter. And here's some paths where they're going to Florida. Here's paths where they come through Texas to Mexico. And here it looks like they come to southern Texas, Louisiana. Or not southern, eastern Texas and Louisiana. Some towns and cities are proud to have the butterflies visit them. They have festivals to celebrate their arrival. Children dress up for parades in butterfly costumes. Sometimes there's a band and visitors that come from all around. Monarchs can cluster together, thousands of them clinging to one tree, a butterfly tree. In the spring, these butterflies will migrate north again to the fields of milkweed plants. And then at the end of the book, it talks about how you can hatch your own monarch butterfly. And if you find, one of the things that I tell students every year is that you can, is that if you're outside, you can look and find a caterpillar and you can put it in a jar. Just make sure that, you know, within the jar you have some things from its habitat and something that you know it will be able to attach itself to, or just keep it on what it's attached to and set it into the jar or the box. When butterflies hatch, besides milkweed plants, you can give them like small pieces of fruit, juicy fruit like the little cuties or oranges, and they will suck sweet nectar and juice from those. So it's always fun to go outside, go on a nature walk. When I was a kid, I used to have a insect collection. So I would go out and collect little animals and pretend I was a little scientist, and I had all my little insects in jars. So that's something fun you can do this summer. Just your summer challenge is to go outside, learn all you can about your outdoors and your environment, and have fun doing it. I hope you have a great summer, and we have missed you throughout the rest of the year. We will look for your little faces when school starts again and give you waves and hugs in the hallway. Mwah. Bye-bye.
2, 1.